Good evening and welcome to the 2021-2022 online parent meeting. We just want to wish you a happy new year, and we're so excited for the season to be underway. And we want to take a few minutes to go through a handful of FAQs, a few introductions, and some important details about the season. So again, Happy New Year. We're so excited for the 2022 season to get underway, and we will start off with a huge thank you and appreciate your dedication, your time, your energy. We know that there are plenty of options out there, but we wanted to thank you first for everything you're going to put into this season, the trust that you're going to give us in developing your daughter in this great sport that we love. And our goal is by the end of the season to have her loving this sport of volleyball as well. My name is Brian Lindstrom. I am one of the club directors along with Jen Cottrell and Aaron Miller. I am primarily in charge of our coaches stuff in the south and east locations. Jen is in charge of our Novi location, the website, some social media, and does an amazing job at recruiting. We'll talk about some of the recruiting resources that we have later on. And Aaron Miller, many of you have emailed back and forth with. Aaron is in charge of our travel, our payments, tournament registrations, and many of our uniform pieces. So just to give you some faces here for our club directors that are in charge of Legacy Volleyball Club. We have so much to celebrate in the state of Michigan, and volleyball is taking off, and we have been fortunate enough to be ranked as the #1 volleyball club in Michigan by the U.S. National Club Rankings. We also celebrated another 16 and under Open National Championship last year down at AAU National Championships. We had a handful of state championships. We had success at many of the other tournaments, teams qualifying for Junior Olympic event. Just an all-around amazing time last year, and we can't wait to replicate that again in 2022. We're going to start off with the ever-changing COVID protocols. And so we have a handful of protocols that are going on. And again, I preface this by saying that there may be instances that we have to change these. The guidance is constantly changing. It just changed last week. And we will be updating our policies and protocols as we go along as we see fit. We always want to say first that and foremost that as we go through these and we make these decisions, we're trying to do what's best for athletes to keep our kids in the gym and playing volleyball. We're trying to make the main thing, and that is getting our kids to be able to participate in our tournaments and our events. And so when we go to get guidance, we've had guidance from the county, we've had guidance given us by our volleyball associations, and we're asking other players and places what they are doing, and we're trying to make the best decisions possible. And again, it's just trying to make the main thing. And keeping the politics aside and out of this, we're doing what we have found has worked best over now what is the third season of club volleyball that has been impacted by COVID. And it's kind of crazy to say that. We're hoping it was all done, and it just keeps coming back off of this. And so we are going to do what we can to navigate these waters. Some of this might be changes of venues, changes of locations. Each tournament's going to have a different policy that we're going to communicate out to our families to make you fully aware of what is happening and taking place. And so we'll start off with this. If any athlete or staff member tests positive or has a known close contact, we are asking you to tell your coach, who will then notify us at Legacy Volleyball Club within 24 hours of this news or information breaking. And as we go throughout the season, any type of COVID symptoms, fevers, chills, having a cough, sore throat, loss of smell or taste, any of the symptoms that arrive with COVID, we're asking you to please stay home and get tested. There are, of course, quarantine exclusions, which also might be changing as we go through this. But if you have been vaccinated or if you've had COVID-19, there's different quarantine exclusions for you that you can read up here on this screen. But again, the biggest, most important thing is that we are getting tested if we have those symptoms and staying away while we have those symptoms. Just a little flow chart here talking about masks, one or both parties if they're masked, and what our quarantine policies are with this. Legacy Volleyball Club strongly recommends the use of masks. When both participants are masked, that means that we will not have close contacts. And so if a player does come down with that, we are safe to say, hey, they haven't been a close contact, and so it's protecting the other team members. We know there's situations and circumstances of players not wearing masks, And we just ask people to be mindful of that. If somebody is not masked, then we might have to go to quarantine protocols with them as we move forward with that. So again, it's strongly recommended, and we want to put these pieces out here. I also want to explain the bottom part. I think it's a little bit easier if we put this into a flow chart. So we've updated a flow chart for this year. On the left-hand side, athlete and staff, if they test positive for COVID-19 at any point in time, then that athlete or staff person is going to isolate for the CDC recommended 5 days from the positive test. So when you have that test, that is considered as day 0. An athlete or staff member may return to the activities on day 6 if they're fever-free and if they have improvement to no symptoms, and they still must remain fully masked from when they tell us that they have had those symptoms from 10 days out. On the other side, if there is a close contact, or what we would call an exposure, if the athlete or staff member is vaccinated or has had a positive PCR test within the last 90 days, then there is no quarantine, but we are asking them to wear a mask for 10 days and monitor any symptoms. So if you have a symptom, please stay home and get a test. If the athlete or staff member is unvaccinated, if both were not properly masked, then the athlete or staff will stay home for 5 days from exposure. Again, exposure date is day 0 and return on day 6 without symptoms, but they still must wear a mask until day 10. Again, most important thing, if symptoms are developed, please stay home and get a test. So as we're going through this, again, the biggest piece is that the stuff is ever changing, and we're doing the best to stay informed on this information, to share it with our coaches, share it with our families. And again, if you have any questions, please contact your coach, who will then contact our club directors, and we will talk and discuss. Let's talk about some of the season practice expectations. We've been practicing for about a month now. We have those expectations. We have had great attendance at our practice, and practice is essential for your team's development and your own individual development. And so as we go through this, we ask that if you have to miss practice, you must notify your coach prior to the practice. We would like that to be within 24 hours. We know stuff comes up, but please, please, please communicate with your coach. Do not just no-show, no contact. Please communicate with your coach. If you have to leave early or if there's issues going on, please communicate with them. Excessive practice absenteeism will result in possible suspensions or even dismissal from the club. And so we ask that you get there and be there. We have a lot of people committed to this, and it is a team sport. So you do rely on others to be successful, and we want you to be there. Please arrange for your daughter to be picked up within 5 minutes of the completion of practices. We do not allow our coaches to leave until all the players have been safely picked up. And we also ask that all the players clean up at the end of this. We want them to take care of this. And so our practice expectations are not only when they're all done, they're going to go and check their area, and they're going to take care of our gyms. It's their home as well, and we want them to stay clean, and we want them to help out and take care and manage those facilities. So our coaches are the last ones to leave, and they're always cleaning up last, leaving the place clean for the other teams to come into practice. And until COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, we're asking for parents to stay home. Less people in the building, the better for our situation. And so we're asking them to stay home while we still have COVID-19 restrictions going on. If a parent wants to come into the building to check stuff out, we ask again that people are masked coming into the building. Inclement weather, it is upon us. And so when we do this, we really try to gauge what's going on in the area. We do have a pretty wide map stretching down from Ohio up to mid-Michigan, and so we're taking all of those things into consideration. We try to get this posted as soon as possible, usually by noon the day of. We try to make that announcement to give everybody a heads up. Sometimes stuff kind of happens as it's going, but we will communicate with our coaches. We'll post it on social media. We'll put it on our website. So your coaches will be the first wave of communication that we'll let them know to pass it on to you, and then we will post it to our social media and on our website. If we do have inclement weather, we will do the best we can to make up those practices. It'll probably be on a weekend, but we do want to make that time up as we get going throughout the season. So those are some of our practice expectations. And again, treat the facilities as your home. We want players cleaning up and all of that good stuff with regards to our buildings. Next up, some of our tournament expectations. So for tournament expectations, we ask that Our coaches pass up the information as soon as they receive it. Sometimes it's out of our control as to when we get that information. The tournaments are really the ones that are setting this stuff up and sending it out. Most of them have it by Wednesday, the weekend before, to the exact playing times. Some of the tournaments have the waves as to when the teams are playing a few weeks out before that, and then they do the scheduling as they get closer. But again, we can't actually do anything until we get that information, so we will pass it on as soon as we get that. Please be on time for all of the matches and reffing assignments. We always consider whatever your coach says. If they say be there at 10:30, that means, hey, 10:20, we are there and we are ready to go. This is an important one. All players are required to stay for all reffing duties, meaning that if your last thing of the day is you lose and then you have reffing stuff going on, we ask that everybody stays. We've had situations where things have come up and we've had teams miss tiebreakers. And we also just want to eliminate that drama of who's going to ref, who's going to do this and that, and then all of a sudden it goes to a third match. So everybody stays until the match is done. Many times your coaches want to communicate with you and everything that happens, and they're the ones who are reffing or down reffing. So again, please stay until all the reffing assignments are done and your coach dismisses you. If you do have to leave earlier, there's something that is imperative. Again, we expect that that's communicated ahead of time with your coach. And again, we're always encouraging parents to remain positive. As we go throughout this, if you have an issue with a coach, player, something going on, please address it after the completion of the tournament. And we'll talk about our communication plan on the next slide. And so we have this policy that we put in place because playing time is not guaranteed at Legacy. It's a privilege. We see it as that and not necessarily a right. And our coaches are the best qualified ones to make these decisions. And so they are at the practices, they were with the athletes, they're looking at many factors that are taking place from matchups, player matchups on the other team, the effort and practice performances that have been going on, the team's needs, where are they at, is there team chemistry with certain lineups that they feel are going on, are the coaches asking players to do something and they're not getting that. So there's so many things that go into playing time decisions. And when we have our coaches meeting, we tell our coaches that we ask them to at least go up and tell the players some of the reasoning as to why they're doing it. But in many cases, coaches are tied up and busy, but we want them to communicate that as best as possible. And so if a player has an issue with this or something comes up, and that's to be expected, everybody is competitive in playing. Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to be out on the court. And so if there is something that arises where players do not, understand the coach's logic or decision pieces, we want the players to talk to the coaches. And so our communication plan is that we have a 24-hour rule. And within this 24-hour rule, we ask if any of the conversations are based around playing time, that they wait until 24 hours after the event. Gives both parties a chance to cool down and to really think about what's going on and analyze it and discuss it. And then we really take some time to go through and process the situation. And so if this is the case after 24 hours, we ask that the athlete discuss the issue with the coach first. And if the matter is not resolved, then go ahead and bring the parents into the meeting if they need to. And then after step 1 and 2, if those are not resolved, then we ask you to bring in a club director to have a meeting to do some mediation of what is going on. And again, we try to do this all in private. So we don't do this during play. We don't do this during practice. But we ask to set up a meeting apart from this and to discuss with that. In saying all of this, as always, there are things that come up that aren't related to playing time that if you think a coach needs to know, as a parent, it's imperative. Maybe it's something going on, whether it's mental health, whether it's some inside information that is known that needs to be shared with the coach. There's something that's needs to take place, and please communicate with the coach right then and there on the spot. But if it's related to playing time pieces or strategy that's used by the coach that's not agreed upon, or there's something that happens or takes place, please wait again 24 hours before communicating with the coach. Next up, travel. We're about to send teams all over the country here, and we absolutely love the job that Erin does as far as booking hotels for us. She usually has multiple options, but sometimes that's out of our control. Sometimes some of the tournaments are what we call state of play, which means you must book within the block the club sets up, and we are actually bound to filling up spots in those hotel blocks. And if we don't fill those spots, we actually get charged for that. So if we have a state of play event, please book within that block. We have hotel blocks set up. Aaron will email out to all of the players and teams, letting them know, book as soon as possible. In the event something does fill up, then we have the ability and have some time to go back to the tournament and ask for them to release some more rooms to us so that we can use them. If you wait to the end, it is very tough for us to add additional hotel blocks to that stuff. So if there are state of play, please book within our block. If it is not state of play, then you are more than welcome to stay with family, to use your hotel points, or to stay where you want to stay. But if you have any questions about this, again, please email Aaron Miller at legacyvolleyball@yahoo.com. For tournaments that require flights, we recommend arriving the day before the tournament. Please do not fly in the morning of if you have an afternoon wave. And booking flights out, return flights home, we ask that they are booked at 6 p.m. or later the last day of the tournament, so that we have, there's tournaments that get backed up, there's things that happen, and all of a sudden they're playing the finals at 3 or 4 o'clock. Even though they try to get the tournaments through the best they can to get that done, we make sure that we don't have people who are missing that final match because they have to leave to go home. Curfew for all players at the hotel is 10:30. Coaches may adjust that to earlier times if necessary. We're asking players to get in the room at 10:30. We know there's been those days where people are still playing at 10 o'clock at night and they need to get food and all that other stuff. But we're asking for player curfew at 10:30 p.m. We want players rested and ready to go for their volleyball events the next day. Next up, payments. So payments, this is part of a waiver that the parents and players have filled out. But basically, you are signing up and committing to Legacy Volleyball Club. So if there's an injury, if there's an illness, if you're dismissed from the club, or if you decide that you are done playing and you quit, all outstanding dues are still turned into Legacy Volleyball Club within 7 days, and we will ask for full payment with that. So we do not have refund, payments for anything out there because we have expenses that are already pre-built into this going back as early as July when our first tryouts have happened. At any point in time, if payments are late or in default, your daughter will not be allowed to continue practices or tournaments until the payments are made. Again, connecting with Aaron Miller if we do have any issues that pop up, legacyvolleyball@yahoo.com, and she will work with you and talk you through the process. And we want to be as flexible as possible, but we are also still trying to make sure that we get our coaches paid and bills paid on time. So that is the scoop with payments, and we're going to move on to some just further expectations, really that are stated in USA Volleyball and AAU's policies as well. But we're talking about the possession or use of any illegal drugs, alcohol, smoking, or vaping products is strictly prohibited. We want our athletes in the best shape that they are in, and none of those things help that situation out. And we're also asking that our families act with respect. Nothing gives us more satisfaction than having tournaments contact us saying that, man, you had the refs were so grateful for the job that Legacy did, where they were reffing, or the way that the players behaved and how they communicated, and the fans. Some of the coolest things that we've seen happen in the volleyball world is when our parents actually get along with the other team's parents, and they end up cheering for each other and rooting for each other on, and just making some of those connections as we go throughout. So we've had some really cool stories of that, and we love to hear that as club directors, that our parents are representing Legacy well at these events. And so we ask again that we try to keep it as positive as we possibly can, knowing that we're going to be in some high tense situations. And the biggest thing is that we want to keep in mind that this is supposed to be fun, but we want to allow for failure to happen. Failure is going to take place. We're going to lose matches. We're going to lose points. We're going to, have issues. That's how volleyball is won. We get points when the other team makes mistakes. And so really just kind of keeping this in the back of our mind, that we are super grateful that we get to play this game and that we get to go and compete at the highest levels, but also want to keep that in check. So our expectations are there. They're in the player contract, and we just really want to make sure that we are treating everybody with respect at all times. Some of the requirements that you have coming up: USAV membership, AAU membership. If you're 18-year-old, there's a Safe Sport online training tutorial piece that you have to do. We have a legacy online waiver that must be signed, and if we have to get back to it, we will have daily screeners for COVID pieces. We do not have those in place right now, but those are a possibility as we had them last year. And your coaches are collecting paperwork, copy of your birth certificate, medical release form, AAU card. And we do have states that actually require paperwork. So some of the states that we go to play, if we go to play in Ohio, they have concussion paperwork and waivers that have to get turned in. So there are other forms. Maybe it's JVA, maybe there's some other event. It might be even just something going on with the convention center that they ask you to sign. So we have some other paperwork that may be due that's going on throughout the year, but the coaches will handle those pieces. Other important information: volleyballs, those were delivered actually this past week to the gym, and so we tried to disperse those out to everybody. We asked players bring their own volleyball to the events that we have, so we keep our practice balls at the facilities and they're not wandering off. So please bring a volleyball to those events. Your uniforms are getting mailed directly to you. They should have come in this week. Again, Aaron Miller or Jen Cottrell for contacting them about uniforms. If there are any issues, please, as soon as you get them, try them on, check them out, let your coach know, and your coach can confirm that with Aaron. And we have results reporting. We want to hear all of these success stories. If it's a great comeback win, if a team's having fun doing a team bonding piece, please share those. We want to celebrate all teams at all levels through our social media pieces. Jen is in charge of that, so jen.legacyvbc@yahoo.com. So if you have something, please email it in. We always have parents that do a great job taking pictures. If you get an awesome action shot, please share it with us so we can get that posted. Next up, college recruiting. Jen is in charge of college recruiting and the Sports Recruits account, the Huddle account. Those are for select teams that we have going on. Our biggest resource is our legacy website. On there, there's a place for recruiting, and it has a list of steps. No matter what age you are, you can start saying, hey, if I want to play volleyball at the next level, I can start taking some of these steps. So please go onto our website and visit that. It has a great step-by-step process of where to start. How do we even start this whole piece? And so even if you're in 6th grade and you're interested in playing it, please visit our website and check out those steps. For the older kids, Jen will have recruiting meetings that she'll contact and connect with you throughout the year. But this is also your process, and players have to put something into it as they get going forward. It doesn't just fall into their lap. They have to work at it, and we have the resources there available to help you out. And we really, really pride ourselves at Legacy Volleyball and the recruiting job that is going on. So kudos to Jen. Please check that resource out. So with that, we are done with our online parent meeting. We're so excited again for the 2022 season. If you have any questions at any point in time, please contact the directors. Let your coaches know when something's going awesome. We have coaches that are dedicated to this sport. They absolutely love it. We don't pay them enough. They don't get thanked enough because they do an amazing job, and that they're super competitive people, and we pride ourselves in having an amazing coaching staff and some great knowledgeable people. And so please use them as a resource. They're here to really help your daughter, and they love the sport, and so that's why they're here doing this. And we're super excited to get the season going underway. So with that, we thank you for everything. We're about to have a great year. Please send us those success stories and any pictures, any great moments. And that is the biggest piece about this, is enjoying that journey with your daughter and watching them grow and compete and be in that competitive atmosphere. So again, thank you much, and we will see you soon. Take care.